Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios. And I know you're all excited and ready for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And look, I got big things to talk about. My guest has big things to talk about, and it's going to be an amazing show. So, what I need you to do right now, right this instant, is make sure you share so that other people can get involved. And you got to hit that like button. Like, it's a necessity. Share, like, and if you're here for Team Replay, make sure you comment as well. Now, with that being said, give me about 10 seconds, and I promise we'll be right back. And we're back. See, 10 seconds is all it ever takes. But with that being said, cheers. I hope you all, wait, there's my camera. All right. I hope you all have all had an amazing Friday and Freya's Day and an amazing work week. Work is work. Some people enjoy it, some people don't. It really depends on the person. But either way, it has been a fantastic week. Mark is my guest this evening. He is the founder, CEO of Night Eagle Security LLC, and it is an honor having him on. I actually met him through Rianne's Discord server, so it's a pleasure having you here. Mark, give us kind of a rundown who you are, how you got into cybersecurity, and I got to be honest, up until you sent me your information, I didn't even know you were a founder.
Well, it's funny because I spent a good number of years running away from IT work and running away from the IT field because I grew up in a data center. My dad retired from the IT field here about 10 years ago, and when I was a kid, uh, I didn't I didn't do a whole lot of go to the baseball game, go to the soccer game on the weekends. I played go to work with dad. So, kind of give away, and date myself here a little bit. Um, as a kid, I knew what reel to reel magnetic tape was and uh, Hollow Earth cards and key punch machines and green and white ladder paper. Uh, so that was, but it was great, and I had an opportunity. I mean, I've worked in behavioral health care. I've worked in transportation, logistics, manufacturing, um, but I had an opportunity um, to retrain and kind of um, have a early midlife crisis, and I was able to get into cybersecurity. And the funny thing is I kind of found cybersecurity by accident, um, because when I left the warehouse and manufacturing and transportation field, um, I figured, you know what, I'll design websites. Learned WordPress. I learned I learned HTML. I learned CSS halfway through JavaScript. I was done with it. um, you are muted, my friend.
Yeah, I just realized that I've been sneezing, so I had to mute myself. But I did HTML, DHTML, and XHTML, and XHTML strict, and then I got away from websites. I did my own, but for the most part, when it came to websites, that's where and I didn't use Dreamweaver or Front Page. My teacher in high school would yell at us if we used those. I used Notepad. Everything was through Notepad.
Mhm,
That's how I did everything. No, we didn't have VS Code. That shit didn't exist. It was really
mhm,
go in a
mhm,
Notepad, code it all, open it. Nope, that looks like crap. Recode, save, F5.
mhm, mhm. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Sublime. I mean, I love a good text editor. You know, um, but no, I started out learning to be an ethical hacker, learning how to pen test. Um, thank Thanks to the cyber mentor Heath Adams. And this was back when he was still running everything through Udemy.
Yep.
So I kind of got to grow with that company a little bit, and learn. as learning, and I still have stuff that or I still have courses that are sitting on the academy website that I still have yet to get to. Um, but it, and but I was able to go back to school and uh, get my degree in cybersecurity. I got a professional certificate, certificate of specialization uh, for CCNA, the Cisco Networking Academy CCNA, and I I performed so well that they asked me to come back and sit on the advisory board for the cybersecurity program.
I probably
Um,
do when I was going through my CCNA security.
but it's it's a wonderful experience. Is and it's funny because I started telling my parents, because I graduated, with honors, made the dean's list every semester, and I kept telling my parents, see, this is just more proof that the only reason I got bad grades in the past was because the teachers hated me.
I mean, either that or you didn't care. To be fair, I didn't care. I had 2 teachers that hated me. 2? I think only 2. I hope only 2. Might have been 3. But for the most part, I just quit caring about school when I was in high school. Like, legitimately was just
Yeah.
like, okay, like, I I was this I just didn't care. And
Mhm.
I still got decent grades. I mean, I passed. I got my degree and my diploma when I was in high school, but I did not
Mhm.
care. I didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah. Um, and and that's really the thing of it is, um, I went through a Catholic high school, and when you graduated from high school, it was expected that you were going
Mhm.
to go on to college. You were going to you were going to get a college degree, and you were going to go into some type, you were going to get a bachelor's, and then you were either going to go into business or whatever, or you were going to become a teacher. But it was strictly, you were when you graduated, you were supposed to go to college. So there was no technical training. Um, there was no other career path other than go to college. So
Yeah.
thankfully that has changed for a lot of the private schools out there. Um, because I mean, there were times where I would ask, well, what about technical training? Well, if you want technical training, you got to go to a public school. Is really what the answer I was given. Um, so
That's odd. That's
yeah,
but again, we're talking a different time, but even then that
right.
was odd. Like my public school had business academy. That's where I got a lot of my
Hmm.
business knowledge from, and
Hmm.
accounting and things like that. And it was a Pittsburgh public school. Like that's
Hmm.
where I grew up, and we started. And funny enough, I was the only one in my school district to include the teachers that was master certified in Microsoft Office at the time. The only one. I actually
Oh.
one of our instructors for our access class, I had to teach the class for her
Hmm.
because she wasn't certified. And by the time I took it, I had all of them. So, but it was that it's such a weird thing because even growing up in public school, I graduated in '04, which even then in public school they were like, you need to go to college, you need to go to college, you need to go to
Mhm.
college. Now we had technical programs like
Mhm.
our trade schools. We had a Cisco Academy that had I known about prior to going into the business academy, I probably would have done that. But
Mhm.
we also had like auto shop and things like that. Like we had a bunch of technical things. Um, but everything still, if you were listening to the teachers, everything was you need a degree. You need to go and get
Mhm.
a bachelor's. And that
Mhm.
was even in public school for me. Like so, eh, to hear that private schools are telling you we're telling you that you need to go to a public school for trade, like even our
Mhm.
public schools weren't pushing trade. They would talk about it like in passing, like, yes, you may want to do this, but in reality, if you want to make money, you got to go to get a degree. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of how things. And my parents were the same way. My parents pushed it on me too. They were like, "Oh, you need a degree.
Mhm. Mhm.
Why?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, but no, I mean it's truly, I mean, the way, and working with the community college here, the way that I do is there's so much more. They're starting to partner with um, high schools, to
Mhm.
where dual enrollment. To where I mean, I've seen, all you got to do is look at um, social media, and you'll see students that are graduating from high school, and they've got an associate's degree already.
See, my son won't have that, but even my oldest right now has because he's in advanced placement courses, he gets college credits for some of his courses. And
Hmm.
he's like, "Dad, we need to pay for this." I'm like, "Okay, so here you go." Like,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, because it's considered college credit, you still have to pay for it. So you can be the most intelligent kid, but if your parents, if you're lower middle class right now, or even middle class,
Yeah.
good luck trying to just pay out of pocket for some of this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
because we're talking some of it's 50, 100, and they're still trying to figure out how to scrape by. I'm
Hmm.
I've been I have certain benefits to being in this career field and getting to where I'm at in my life, and it took me years to get there. But
Yeah.
there are certain people that their kids are intelligent as a whip. They can do whatever, and it's like, hey, this can count as college credits. But then they're like, oh, we need to charge you for that. I'm still in high
Yeah.
school. Why are you charging for college credits for a high school teacher to teach something? Like that
Hmm.
makes no sense to me at all.
Exactly. I mean, and it's like anything else. I mean, it's a numbers game. It's money, um, which is why, in the cybersecurity field, there's still this huge question: Are certifications important? Are certifications not important? Do we value certs, or do we value education? Um, and it's true. Honestly, I mean, I have industry certifications, and yeah, it costs money to maintain those. But at the same time, if I can kind of you can kind of flip the script on people. Well, I don't value certs, I value education. Well, good, because every 3 years I'm going to have at least 60 continuing education units. So basically, I'm going to have the equivalent of a new associate's degree every 3 years for you.
Yeah.
And
Well, I look at it a little differently, right?
mhm,
So let's take it like this. This is my problem with CEUs. If you're
mhm,
working in the career, I can understand if you're not currently working in the field. But if your job is security analyst or security engineer, or
mhm,
let's even go as far as a CISO or a security director or whatever, right? They
mhm,
have to maintain some semblance of knowledge to be able to secure those networks. So why do I got to submit CEUs every year if that's my actual job? That is my day to
mhm,
day what I need to do. So now what you're asking me to do is to go outside of my job to then go to these webinars or attend conferences or do whatever. But on top of that,
mhm,
now I also got to pay you money to maintain that certification every year.
mhm,
So like it has become this thing where the only way you can maintain a lot of these certifications that actually have value, to be fair, the CISP has value. Your SAN
mhm,
certifications have value. Your CEH, that's debatable. OSCP, um,
mhm,
it's a lifetime cert still, so that's up in the air depending on if you stay within that realm of security. But
mhm,
that knowledge that you gained to get that cert is invaluable in your career field, and as long as you get in the career field, you are now doing everything necessary. So
mhm.
why do you have to? Why do you have to drain your life in cybersecurity just to work in cybersecurity? I've never understood it. Never understood it.
Mhm. It's like any other profession. I mean, lawyers, they have to have so many CEUs to maintain uh their bar license. Doctors have to have so many CEUs in order to maintain um
If we
their
had a
MD
singular
licenses. Yeah.
license, that would make sense, but we're not licensed
Right.
professionals. We have a
Hmm.
million certifications for a
Hmm.
million different things that, and especially, I'm going to put Sands on blast right now for this because they are a huge reason I get aggravated because they have every avenue of cybersecurity, right? You got Python coder,
Mhm.
you got offensive security, incident handler, incident response, whatever. If the webinar you went to has nothing to do with coding or Python security, it cannot count towards your Python coder certification. They will not accept
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
So,
and that's and I'm gonna go this route with this because a lot of I mean, if you look at I the three certs that I have, Security Plus from CompTIA, certified in cybersecurity from ISC2, and then the System Security Certified Practitioner, the SSCP through ISC2. Um, if basically whatever CEUs I use for one usually will work for
mhm,
three for all three. Okay, and the thing about CompTIA and ISC2, um, I don't know how SANS does their maintenance fees, but you pay
they're
one maintenance
ridiculous.
fee. Right.
They're
Well,
ridiculous.
with ISC2
Like
and CompTIA,
$750 for one.
well, and that's the thing. ISC2 and CompTIA, whatever the highest maintenance fee is for your certification. So if you have Security X, which is what CAS Plus is
Mhm.
on to, okay, so if that's your highest level of certification, you pay one fee and it counts for all of your certs.
And so Cisco did that. Cisco did it. If you get a higher level certification, let's say you have CCNA, CC,
Hmm.
you have all your associate certifications and they expire every 3 years. But you
Hmm.
go within that 3 years before it expires and get a CCNP, it renews all of them, every single
Hmm.
one. The only
Hmm.
way that you can pay for one cert to renew all your certs within SANS is to get the GSE, which is the GX Security Expert.
Hmm.
That's it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you literally have to renew every single individual certification. Now, they will group them together and say, "Oh, we'll give you a discount based on the fact that you're doing 5 at a time, 4 at a time, 3 at a time, whatever." But at the end of the day, the only way to renew all your certs and for everything to count is to get the GSE. That's
Hmm.
it, which is a ridiculous cert. Look, more power to the people that have it. I will never get it at this point in time in my career.
Hmm.
Look, if my experience in this industry isn't enough for you, then I don't know what to tell you. I've been in it for
Right.
15 years. Like, I
Right.
legitimately don't know what to tell you at this point.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing of it is you've got certification bodies that want to make money. I mean,
Mhm. Rightfully
Sands will
so.
only make, yeah,
I don't blame them.
right,
I just think it's gotten
right,
outrageous.
right, exactly. So, but the thing of it is too is there are so many, and this is what I love about the cybersecurity community all over is if we will teach each other and we will
Mhm.
learn from each other, and you know we don't ask you to pay us.
Ah,
All you got to do is walk down YouTube Lane and
go to
you know
university YouTube. You'll be good to go.
exactly. I was going to say. But I mean, the Professor Messer videos for
Uh-huh.
the CompTIA certs. I mean, God love that man because I mean that was probably one reason why I passed Security Plus on my first try was because I spent about a week or two with walking around with my earbuds in listening to all of his Security Plus videos on a loop.
Well, and that's another thing, right? But I call them paper champions, paper started,
Hmm.
paper tigers, whatever you want to call them. The military is notorious for sponsoring it, and actually, I think the military, DoD, and 8570 have ruined the certification industry within CompTIA. Um, is that when they came out with 8570, I know for a fact, I know because I had to take that boot camp. that there were certain boot camps that if you went through them through the military and they taught the test. So if you memorized everything they taught, you could get certified. But if you took a different test through a different voucher code that didn't come from that boot camp, you got a completely
Hmm.
different test. It was not the same, which means if you did not understand the fundamentals and the foundational knowledge that it was trying to teach you, you would
Hmm.
fail. I saw many,
Hmm.
many people fail. And in the army, when I was active duty, I had an
Hmm.
E5, an NCO who could not tell me what RAM was, what port 443 was, and she was Security Plus certified.
Hmm.
It blows my mind how this was allowed. To me, seeing that firsthand absolutely
Hmm.
ruined CompTIA for me when that happened. When I saw that
Hmm.
this was allowed through the military, because now you do not understand the fundamentals. Because I don't give a damn if you get certified. It's not the
Hmm.
certification that matters to me. It's if I ask you a question based on that certification, can you answer that question? And if you
Hmm.
cannot, especially for a basic cert, when that is your day to day job, we're going to have a problem.
Hmm.
Because then how can I trust you to do your job?
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things. I when I tested for Security Plus, I was I tested on the SYO 601. So that was actually the first
Dude, mine
Security
was
Plus.
401. Mine was lifetime started. I still haven't renewed. That bitch will always be lifetime. I ain't converting it. It's the only one I can still get and my OSCP. They're the only two that I
Mhm.
still have.
but no, SYO 601, the from listening what people who had taken SYO 501 told, anybody that took SYO 501, they told you it was a glorified vocabulary quiz. As long as you could pass, as long as you had the vocabulary, you could pass SYO 501. SYO 601 got past that, and I haven't seen too much of the curriculum for SYO 701, but a lot of the certs, and I know Cisco did this with CCNA. Um, they are there are skills based test
Mhm.
questions to where you actually have to do the work, and God love them for that because
I failed my CCNA twice because
Mhm.
and now I pass it with flying colors. But when I was going through the training, I failed it twice. And it was because of the skills based stuff, because I would read and read and read, but I didn't have Packet Tracer. I didn't have GNS3. I didn't have any way to really hone in and get the muscle memory of certain commands and the way things worked. And because of the
Mhm.
way Cisco did their tests, I couldn't use certain functions, like certain commands. And so I'd put a command in and be like, this command doesn't exist. It started making me feel like I was stupid. I was like, no, I know that command
Mhm.
exists. I know it's a real,
Yeah.
I read about it. It's legit. It wasn't
Mhm.
until I went to PTI, which is now a university, but it was a technical institute at the time. It wasn't until I went
Mhm.
through PTI and actually had my hands on the equipment again, because I hadn't touched it for years since I left, since my basic training days and AIT days in the Air Force,
Mhm.
um, that I was actually able to really learn the hands-on portion of Cisco. Once I knew the
Mhm.
hands-on portion and literally had it baked into my mind, subnetting and all the ACL commands and rules and things like that, dude, I took that test and passed it within 45 minutes. Like the practical was like, oh yeah, I got this. We're good. Like I know exactly how to do this.
Yeah.
And then when I had to retake it because the army let mine expire, they wouldn't let me just renew it. So I went back through a boot camp and I forget when, but I was working at the Pentagon at the time. They're like, yeah, go ahead, renew it. And actually, it was and CCNA security. Dude, literally every test took me
Mhm.
like a half hour, less than a half hour for CCNA. 20
Mhm.
minutes I was done because I had the entire like command structure memorized to the point of I know exactly what I'm doing here because I that was my career at the time. Like it was
Yeah.
easy to go through.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is easy.
Hmm. Yeah. You can enable config T with the best of them, right?
Oh man, dude, that one. What was the other one? There was a few. That was actually one of my favorite things about Cisco. um, was you could shorten your command and it knew what you were doing as long as
Hmm.
it didn't conflict with another command.
Yep.
So config T, easy. But if they
Hmm.
would have added like another T word after config and it been like
Hmm.
config terminal and config tool, you would have had to add the second letter.
Yep.
show,
Yep.
show IP in brief. Yes, John.
Right.
Absolutely. Did I remember that
Um,
one like the back of my hand? SHIP in brief.
do run show.
Yeah, yeah. Copy
You
run
know.
start.
Yep. 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 Love them. You know,
but
and that's one of the great things about a lot of these 2-year college programs. Um, the the college that I went through was a Cisco networking. It was a
mhm,
Cisco networking academy. I was fortunate because the the two guys that the two well act, well the yeah the two main instructors for the Cisco networking academy courses, not only did they teach the CCNA material, they taught the instructors how to teach the material.
yeah.
So
Well, and that's
um,
like I was telling John in the chat on YouTube.
mhm,
The, the one thing I love and why I can respect Sands for their prices. Like I get it, and I tell anybody, don't go to Sands on your own pocket unless you have that kind of money to afford it. Have the company you work for pay for it.
mhm,
They actually pay their instructors and pay them damn well. And on
mhm,
top of that, their instructors have to still work in the career field. They can't just be a teacher who I'm no longer doing this job, so I'm going to teach. It's no, you have to be doing this job full time. That is the only
mhm.
way you can be an instructor for that lesson. And that way they can
And
give real life experience and real life on the job, like what they're going to see. And another company I'll shout out, and it is because he was always one of my favorite instructors, is InfoSec Institute. When I went through
yeah.
there, Keytron Evans, this man literally, he was like, all right, look, I'm gonna teach you kind of how they want you to understand things on the test and the book smart stuff, but then I'm gonna teach you how to actually do the job. So that when you go take
Mhm,
this test, you'll understand why things are the way they are. And this man,
mhm,
I went through CEH with him. He showed me a piece of malware that he wrote himself. And I
mhm.
was like, how? How does it do that? He was like,
Oh
"Oh, and
yeah.
by the way, I'm gonna give you the code, but I've already submitted it to Metasploit and everywhere else, every EDR, virus total, like the signatures out there. So have fun. You're
Mhm.
still gonna get caught." And I was like, "You're a dick."
And not so much.
not, not
You can
anymore. Like
you can
now,
change the
this
hash
was
value
years
very
ago
easily.
when
Right.
you couldn't really change signatures all that much. Now it's like I could put 5 lines of code in something and you can work your way around it. But
Mhm.
InfoSec
Yeah.
Institute, they don't mess around with their instructors. Like their
Oh
instructors
yeah.
know the industry. And by far
And
my favorite was Keytron Evans.
well, and here's the thing. The community college that I went through was a Center of Academic Excellence 2-year program. Well,
Yeah,
CAE and Cyber Defense. So Center of Academic Excellence and Cyber Defense 2-year program, the KZ program. And part of that is that one, anyone who teaches in the cybersecurity program, one, they have to maintain a certain level of skill. So
yeah,
if my the program the program chair was um, a CISSP. He had to maintain his CISSP in
right,
order to um, he you know see the networking guys. They had to have some type CCNA, CCNP, Network Plus. They had to maintain those.
right.
Cisco Cyber Op, Cisco Cyber Ops. Um, the
Cyber
and
sucked.
well, it's funny because my CCNA one and my CCNA security teacher, he would tell you that he learned networking directly from Mr. Cisco. you know, so it was, but having instructors like that. I mean, worked, I, I actually have worked with one of my professors. He was an adjunct
Mhm,
professor. He still is an adjunct professor, but you know, uh, enterprise security management class.
mhm.
The man was a CIO, was a CISO, a CIO for a local hospital, and he always bragged about the fact that uh, you know the wonderful thing about teaching in a cybersecurity program was he got to pick the cream of the crop and hire them in to work for him.
He's
And
not wrong.
right, right, you know, so and it just so happens that a lot of the opportunities that I've had in the cybersecurity field have been because I excelled so well in his class.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
But
so
that goes
yeah,
back to
yeah,
and I want to talk more about education,
yeah,
but legitimately, even with education, you can have a doctorate in
hmm
cybersecurity and a master's and a bachelor's, but if you don't have the right network or know how to present and sell yourself, it will
hmm
not matter. It
and
legitimately will not matter because you're going to get into somewhere. And if you can't talk to people, if you can't interface, if you cannot communicate, I don't care how
hmm
good you are. At a certain point, you're going to need to be client facing or talk to the help desk or be able to deal with other directors or somebody else. And if you can't, I
exactly,
can't hire you. I just can't.
exactly. And it's funny, in before we started the show, when we were talking, I told you I was at a advisory board meeting this morning, and
Mhm.
that was something that is constant, that I hear constantly in those meetings is, they have to be able to communicate. They have, kind of going back to kindergarten, use your words, you know, um,
And the worst
you,
part of my communication is the fact that I can at times be very blunt and tell people
mhm,
that look, you're fucked up.
yeah, yeah,
And look, let's be fair. This show probably doesn't do me any favors because I drink and say what's on my mind. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, I can still communicate. I can still talk and get my point across. It doesn't
hmm
matter.
yeah,
I know how to communicate, but that is how I got to where I'm at in this industry. It is not
exactly.
yeah, I can deliver on projects. Yeah, I can deliver on all these things. Yeah, I have a degree. I had at one time every letter after my name. It did not matter. I had the damn alphabet.
Yeah.
But if you can't communicate, you can't move up. You can never hit
Mhm,
that level of seniority that requires you to interface with people,
mhm.
whether it be
Well,
senior or principal. You don't have to get into management, but if you are a principal engineer or a principal whatever consultant, you'll
mhm,
have to interface with people. You will have to be
mhm,
able to communicate your point of view, whether through written word, reports, or anything else to other
mhm,
people. So I think that is the biggest part of education that we need to learn to understand is public speaking and writing. You
mhm,
have to be able to do those two things. If you cannot,
mhm,
you can get into the industry, but
mhm.
you are going to cripple your vertical movement. You are going to cripple it.
Exactly. But also the truly, not only be able to learn to communicate, but able to learn to communicate effectively. So if, and I'm gonna steal somebody, if you got to be able to talk beans to the bean counter.
Yeah.
You got to be able to put things in a context that the C-suite is going to understand. Okay, I can talk to you all the live long day about ACL, ACL rules, firewall rules, um, you know, policy, um, policy servers, and what is enforced on the policy server, what IOCs are being blocked. If I go into a boardroom and I'm talking all of that technical jargon, they're going to look at me and they're going to say,
Mhm.
the whole Mike Myers, in in Wayne's World.
Which is why
You
at that level you need to have. I truly think at the board level you
hmm
need to have the financial person for security, so your CISO. You need to
hmm
have a CIO. They need to be separate. They should the CISO should never fall under the CIO, and people do that consistently. I hate it.
hmm
Two
hmm
separate positions, but then you need to have that technical person so that the technical person can say, "Hey, we need to do this because of X, Y, and Z." And then when it comes to money, the CISO can sit there and say, "Oh, and it'll reduce risk by this amount of money, by this amount of whatever." They can
hmm
translate it. Now, if you want
Yeah.
to, that technical person can technically be your security director and it falls directly under your CISO. You can do that.
hmm
But I do think from a technical perspective, you need to have someone at the board meeting that can talk technical, that can say,
hmm
we need this technology, we need this software solution because of, these reasons. And then the
hmm
CISO can take those reasons and and it'll do this financially. like,
Yeah. Oh
here's
yeah.
your business side of things. Now that you've heard the I don't understand side of things.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head with me because for me, you want I'm always I tell people I am Sheldon Cooper incarnate. Because I can you know I will say what everybody else is thinking, and my my initial idea for I write multiple drafts of every report that I do because initially my executive summaries can be summed up in very few words. What did we find? You suck. How are we going to fix it? How are we going to fix it? We're going to make you stop sucking. Plain and simple. Tells the story, right?
Then look, I come from the army. It's so funny
Right.
when people tell me to write reports because it's like, yo, short, simple, to the point. Um,
hmm
we need to fix this now. And they're like, oh, we need an epic, we need this. I'm like, or I just go click the button. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Like cabs and change of view boards and things like that. I know they're necessary. I know the reason behind
Yes.
it. Me as a
Mhm.
businessman, you as a businessman, we understand why these things are necessary. But I could just push the button now. Like I could fix your problems right now. It'll take me 2
Mhm.
seconds, I promise. Will anything come down? Meh. Depends on your servers.
Mm, Depends. How many legacy systems are you running? It's
How many
and it's
Windows
truly.
2000 servers do you have out there? I'm just curious.
Oh, I mean my favorite and truly, one of the things that especially coming from a manufacturing background, like I do, and I mean I've seen manufacturing plants that are still running Windows 95
Oh, dude,
because
so bad. So bad. So I do we got I hate doing this because I love these rants. I love going off topic. But I do want to bring this back to education.
yes.
So one, before I do that, Space Tacos, love her to death. She said, Mark, I wish I could use your paraphrased executive summary on my next audit. Great.
I
My
love it.
show does go on rant. So for anybody who's new here, who's never turned in, I rant. I will go off topic more often than probably any show you'll ever see because it's all off the hip. That's how I operate. If you can't deal with that, too bad, move along. But otherwise, um, trying to bring it back around to education, public
hmm
speaking, and report writing, technical writing, things like that are extremely valid. I think people need to take those
They are.
courses if you're going for a 4-year degree. The downside is when you're going through a technical training, those courses are not offered. Do you feel like within our industry, if you're going for a technical track, those courses should still be part of the curriculum?
They are because for my associate's degree, I had to take I did have to do a writing class. I did have I didn't have to do public speaking, but I did have to engage in um, oral presentations, team projects. I mean, enterprise security management was what is it, 16-week is a full semester class,
Mhm.
16-week group project. We met on Saturday via Teams. So you had to do project work. Linux 2 had to work as a team, um, to where basically we had to set up file shares, and we had to be able to every machine in our group had to be able to communicate with each other. So I mean, it's so truly, learning to work as a team, learning project management skills, learning how to write memos, how to write resumes, how to write cover letters, um, and then and then here again, enterprise security management. You had to write a report of your findings. You had to write policies. You had to, you basically had to come up with an entire cybersecurity program and then present that to the class. And my group project, I think we maxed out at 125 pages in the end. Um, that was policies. That was, but that was you had to build, because the fictitious company that we did this for, when we walked in, they had two things: firewalls and antivirus.
So most companies.
And right, well, and
and
it's
it's
funny
and it's
because
consumer antivirus at that. It's not even enterprise.
right,
As I went
right,
out and I bought AVG free. I say bought,
right.
but I got
Mhm.
AVG free on my systems. That's what I'm using.
Mhm. Right. We're running default Microsoft Defender, so we're good, right? And it's funny because the professor that I had that class for, it's really become a joke, a running joke for him and I, everywhere that I've worked with him. Um, and my first way, well, do they have firewalls and antivirus? And he's like,
I mean,
yes,
that's
they
the
do actually.
question. I mean, let's start with the basics here.
Right? You know.
So
um
with that being said, like I look at things and I'm trying to figure out education wise. Like
mhm,
I see a lot more 4-year degrees sprouting up, like colleges that are actually offering cybersecurity degrees. Do you feel like they have come far enough to where it makes sense? Because I got to be honest, the original 4-year degrees, they didn't, they barely taught fundamentals, let alone
mhm.
cybersecurity.
the so having gone through that center of academic excellence, now in order to become, and I don't know if you're familiar with the CAE program. It's actually a being designated as a CAE, whether it's a 4-year program or the KZ program, the 2-year in cyber defense. And there's different levels of this, but that is an endorsement from the Department of Homeland Security and the NSA. So if your program is going to be endorsed, one, are you teaching according to industry standards is probably one of
Right.
the biggest questions. So are you teaching according to, you know um when I graduated with my associate's degree, I had a security plus certification. I had an SSCP certification, and I went off on my own and did the CC on my own, just because
Yeah.
I needed to keep my wits about me, while I was waiting for the SSCP exam. And
So,
not to
so
not to mention the fact that ISC2, I think they're still giving away courses and exam vouchers for the CC, but it has to be your first ISC2 cert in order to get that free course and the free test voucher.
my only problem when people say, "Hey, this is NSA certified," is
Hmm.
I was going for my master's and I had
Hmm.
an instructor at the school I was going to, and it was intro to cybersecurity. Because for some reason, for a master's degree program, they needed an intro to cyber course. To me, that never made sense. I'm like, if you're getting a degree in basket weaving, now going for a master's in cybersecurity, something is off here. But whatever.
Right.
Let that be neither here nor there. This instructor worked claimed I didn't hire her. I was just in the course. Claimed to have worked for the CIA, the NSA, and all these other three-letter agencies and knew all this stuff about cybersecurity. This is what turned me off about master's programs and instructors in general for a lot of the industry, and especially three-letter agencies, because we were talking about IDSs and IPSs. I said my question was very simple. If an attacker is being blocked by an IPS, will they not know that an IPS is there? Now, I understand advanced attackers. I know that they'll absolutely know. I knew the
Mm-hmm.
question I was asking and I already knew the answer, but I wanted her
Mm-hmm.
response because I'd already gotten the feeling that it was going to be an argument. At that time in my educational endeavors, I was going to be an asshole. It just did not matter. And her response to me was, it depends on how much money the company spent. No, it does not. If you are being blocked by something, you know you're being blocked by something. Money doesn't matter. An IPS is an
Mm-hmm.
IPS is an IPS. Now, whether or not it can actually stop you matters. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're stopped, you're going to know that there is an IPS in the way. Everything came down to money. It depends on how much money you spend. No, no.
No.
And if
No.
please, somebody in the comments, if that is truly the answer, tell me why. Explain it to me why money matters. Because to
Can
me,
you
an
share that
IPS
answer
is an
with me?
IPS, and any attacker known to man is going to know they're going to be blocked, or going to know that they were blocked by such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They may not know what one it is, but they're going to know something stopped them. Just say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I taught that class at the smoke pit every day. Every time
Mm-hmm.
I was in class, I was at the smoke pit teaching them about firewalls and IPSs and IDSs. I was so mad. I was the only one in that course to get an A minus. And everybody in that class was like, "How'd you get an A minus?" I said, "Because I put on my review. She doesn't know her damn thing." And she read it before she graded me. And she knew it was me that wrote it. And
Yep.
I was so furious when that was the answer to everything. Everything came down. No, it comes down to the technology. It comes down to what's in play. It comes down to what you're using. Money does not
Mm-hmm.
matter. It is,
Yeah.
does the technology stack up? If you're using an IDS, an attacker don't care. They don't know you're using an IDS. That traffic is mirrored.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a span port. It is not our mirrored port. My networking, it's been a while, but I want to say it's a span port. That traffic's mirrored. It is duplicated through both routes so that the IDS can see what's going on, but you're still allowed to do whatever you want. An
Mm-hmm.
IPS
It's
is legitimately there to prevent.
exactly. I was going to say IDS, and I've taught this, when I was teaching Security Plus, you know, IDS, it is strictly there to detect. It's not,
It's a
it's going
monitoring
to,
system.
it's exactly. It's basically, IPS, as long as the IPS is not in monitor mode, because you
I
have a
mean, I
lot
guess
of times
that's
where
where money comes to play. Did you pay for the right setup so that it's
I was
actually
going
in
to say,
prevent
did you pay enough money to have it taken out of monitor mode?
mode?
You know,
Right?
and believe it or not, there are people who don't spend that money, which is why if you're, again, as a consultant, as somebody that makes recommendations, okay, don't don't just go to FortiGate and say, hey, I want to buy firewalls. Go through some type of value added resale that's going to configure it for you and say, hey, okay, tell us what you want turned on.
Well, and this goes back to education though, right? Because if you
Exactly.
look at it, there's a lot of let's be fair. There's a lot of idiot CISOs, CIOs, businesses, whatever, that go to these, RSAs and black hats and DEF cons, and these vendors are like, oh yeah, dude, this it has AI and ML and UEBA and all the blinky lights blink, and it is fantastic. But they never
Hmm.
they never buy the service to actually set it up. And I'll give you a prime
Exactly.
example. Cylance was one of the first EDRs out there. One of, not the only, one of the very original early detection and response type of, we don't work just off of signatures. We actually
Hmm.
do more.
Yeah.
The problem was it got such a bad name because people who bought it did not buy professional services and so never implemented any policies. And so they put a stock agent that was basically an antivirus at that point. All it would do is scan signatures, if that, and
Hmm.
never did anything. And so they're like,
Yeah.
oh, Silence sucks. It doesn't block anything. It doesn't do da 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 da. PowerShell still runs and all this other stuff. And then you go look at their policies and they're like, well, you haven't implemented any policy at all.
What? Oh,
And so beyond the education of just the engineer, just the analyst, you have to be educated to know that if you're going to buy a new product, you might want to know how it operates. Education continues
yeah.
beyond
Exactly.
certifications and degrees and
Yeah.
everything else. And I get it. Look,
Yeah.
for all those trying to break into the industry, any education is good education. You either learn
Exactly.
what to do or what not to do, but either way, you're learning. And as long as you
Hmm.
take it in that mindset, that is what matters. Your
Hmm.
degree is a paper, or your degree and certifications are just paper until you prove to me you actually learned something by getting it.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't care what degree or certification you have. You could literally
Right.
sit there and say you have 26 letters after your name for every letter of the alphabet. But if you can't
Right.
speak to what those letters mean and what you learned by getting that, I don't
Right.
care.
Exactly. And that's why, education, there needs to be that hands-on, um that practical aspect, no matter what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, to where to where not only can I talk the talk, I can walk the walk.
Mhm.
Because I can tell you all about how, oh yeah, bash scripting and Python scripting, you use this and it, you can use it for this and this and this. Okay, well, write me a script. you know
Yeah.
that's why, which is why I have always told students, especially students that I've taught, have a GitHub page, have a GitHub, get a GitHub and put, you may not ever, you're not going to, and then two, don't save every script you've ever written in Python class, because you're not writing production code at that point. Number one. Two, have a GitHub page and practice. Write a script, because when I taught Security Plus, I always had my students do a final project. And what was it? I want you to write a port scanner for me. Okay.
I remember, so I've always despised options and switches because I
Hmm.
never remember them. So when I run like Nmap scanners and things like that, like I always forget. I'm like, shit, what was the right one? How do I do all ports? Is it dash P zero? Meanwhile, it's dash P dash, whatever the case may be.
I don't know if you
I
can
You
get the
can't see
book.
it, but I have the same book.
Yeah.
Like I
I
see
was
the
gonna
cover.
say, yeah,
I have the same one.
network port. Yep, exactly.
So, but what I did when I went through, so for those that don't know, Mark Baggett, dude is amazing. He knows Python like the back of his hand. Amazing instructor. He actually wrote the Python course for SANS, taught me Python going through the army. I restructured his entire code for a Python scanner. What I did was is I put in prompts. I
Hmm.
wanted prompts. What do you want to do? But what I did to do that, so it basically ran Nmap on the back end is effectively what I did it with Bash too. I did the same thing with Bash whenever later on down the line.
Hmm.
But I put options in. What is your subnet or IP range that you're scanning? What do you
Hmm.
want to do with it? Like, what ports do you want to scan? Do you want to scan all ports? No. Okay. So here's your next option. What ports do you want to scan? Da da da. Literally through freaking commands. Just tell me what you wanted to do, and it would do it.
Hmm.
But if I had to remember options, I was like, I don't know. Let's see, nmap dash S. I don't know what was the S again, or V. Like, what do I want? Dash VV. Like, how do I do this?
Oh, does it need does that need to be a capital S or a lowercase s? Is that a capital P?
And so, like,
Is
unless
it?
you do it every day,
Mm-hmm,
you're not going to remember it. So, and
mm-hmm,
here's the thing about cybersecurity, and this is what I want people to understand. I don't care what education you have. I don't care if you're degrees. I don't care if you have certifications. I don't care if you're going for degrees or certifications.
mm-hmm,
If you are not doing it every single day or several times a week at least, you are
mm-hmm,
going to forget it. You better make Google and these days Chat GPT, Pentest GPT, fucking
mm-hmm.
something your friend, because at the end of the day, you are going to sit there like myself and so many others and buy a ton of books and like read half of them, then go to the next one, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. And then when you need some
Mm-hmm.
bit of information, you're like, shit, which book was that in? Oh, this one on
The
Nmap. Okay, let me get the Nmap book. Let me go look through here real quick on what I need.
and the key of it is the biggest lesson that I taught any cybersecurity student ever, whether they were sitting in my Security Plus class in a boot camp, whether it's a student that I've mentored through the community college, whatever. May we live and die by our ability to enumerate our own answers. There is no 1-800 hacker if you're a pen tester. There is no 1-800 Cisco. I mean, for the method of last resource for any, I've worked with guys that are CCIEs, and they will tell you, ask Google it before you call and open attack case. Google it and see if we can't figure this out on our own,
It's
because
probably
calling
on
for
Reddit.
support.
Let's be fair. It's
I was going
probably
to
on
say,
Reddit.
whatever, whoever, it doesn't matter. I don't care where you get your information from, but if you will live and die by your ability to enumerate your own answer.
And so that's the big thing to me. And I think, to be fair, this is where I give college the leg up. College should be, now it's been years.
Mhm,
I got my degree in '09, so
mhm,
things may have changed. I don't know. But at the time, even in my public speaking course, college taught you how to research. Or it may,
yes.
well, let's be fair. It didn't teach you how, it forced you to learn how.
Mhm,
It would say find sources, use the web, do whatever, but you had to research. College will do that. Your 4-year degree will force you to research. Even a master's degree will force you to research. So
My
the
associate's degree did that.
yeah, yeah, right. So the best instruction I ever got in IT and cybersecurity, and I've said this many times on this show and in podcasts and things like that, other podcasts that I've done. In the Air Force, I was in the Air National Guard. Our server admin, she was absolutely amazing. She had so much tribal knowledge. She knew everything about everything about everything when it came to our servers, Windows servers, desktops, laptops, did not matter. I can remember on several occasions going to her and being like, hey, I know you know this answer, so can you give it to me? Her response was, did you look it up?
Mhm,
I mean, I could, but that takes time. No, no, no. You're going to learn how to find the answer. Go find the answer. Once you've
mhm,
exhausted that resource of the interwebs, then come back to me.
mhm,
I had so much more
mhm,
respect for her because of that, because that's how she
mhm,
learned. That is how she got to where she was at in her career in knowing what she knew. Nobody gave her the answers. She had to find them.
mhm.
You need to,
And
in this industry, know how to find the answers because it's not all
yes,
laid out. Shit changes every day.
and that's why I tell people, that's why I'm a Linux user. That's why I love Linux, because one, it's customizable. Two, I don't have to worry about source code being locked down. But also, there's no 1-800 Linux. There's no, I don't have Microsoft, or I don't have those 1-800 numbers, those toll-free numbers for support, because I want to challenge myself. If something breaks, I want to fix it. and I will tell you this, as you are trying to get into cybersecurity, if you're trying to break into IT in general, do do something and break it, and then learn how to fix it,
Yeah.
because then you will be the greatest. You will become the greatest asset, because you know what, you know how to go out and find the answer and how to fix it and do it, and you don't, because honestly, I don't have, as a principal, as an ISO, as a SOC engineer, I don't have time to spoon feed you as an analyst and tell you, okay, well, now you need to type in, you know, this command. You know, we need somebody that can think on their feet.
Yeah.
You know, if you're
So for sure. And I want to talk to you more on the back end, but one of the examples I have of that when I was in the army, and again, everything goes back to the military. I don't know why. Um, I had a soldier ask me when we were going through all our SANS courses, and they said at that time I had spent years, and me and you talked on the background, on the back end before the show started about how I dedicated my life to cybersecurity and just learning and growing for so many years. And the army was a big part of that. I wanted to break into this career field. It didn't exist. And when it did exist, it took me a while. So I spent every opportunity learning offensive security. That's what I wanted to do at that time in my career. So I downloaded the first aspect of offensive security that I ever dug into was downloading Backtrack Linux, not Kali. Kali did not exist. I was on
Mhm,
BT2, right?
mhm,
I did wireless hacking. I did, forensics. I legitimately learned every tool at that time, and I kept growing with it and studying and growing. And I would spend an hour or two every night with this. And of course, I evolved with it as well as they went to BT3, and I think BT4 came out before they went to Kali.
mhm,
Then they go to Kali. So I'm in this class, and she was like, and I'm going through and I'm flying through this SANS course, like, yeah, I know how to use Metasploit. I know how to do all this, da da da. I ain't saying nothing to no one. I'm just flying through the lessons that they're trying to teach. She was like, how do you know all this? I said, let me ask you a question, because this is a differentiator between passion and a job. At the
mhm,
time, this is what I lived for. And yes, at the time I still had a wife and kids. I
mhm,
said, when you go home, what do you do? Like when you get off of work, when you have nothing going on, what do you do? And she said, I make dinner, I play with the kids, I watch TV, da 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 da. If you were not trying to break into a career field and you were just working your career, more power to you. I have nothing
mhm,
wrong with that. But if you're trying to break into a new career field, you have to consistently study. I said, all right.
mhm,
I said, here's the difference. So when I get off of work, I spend 2 hours every night, at least 2 hours every night, practicing new techniques, figuring out this career, figuring out what I want to do, and doing everything, playing with every tool, every tactic, every technique, everything I can do. I work on it. Linux and Windows, Mac, it does not matter. I touch it all.
mhm, mhm,
And she was like, oh, I said, that's the difference. I said, to you, this is just a military job. This is just something you want to do.
mhm,
You have failed every test. And she did. She failed every SANS course. Somehow still
mhm.
got the career. I'll never understand that aspect, but whatever. That's a conversation for a different time.
Mhm,
Whereas I flew through them all. And again, it had nothing to do with not being able to learn it. It had everything to do with the willingness to learn it. I believe
mhm.
she was very intelligent and could have if she really wanted to. But to her, it was my promotion's locked out. I need to get a promotion in the military, so I'm going to go here. For me,
Mhm,
it was this is what I love. This is who I
mhm.
am, and I'm gonna go with it.
Exactly.
So you have to be able to take that opportunity. I don't care if you don't get a degree. I don't care if you don't get a certification. But if you're
Yeah.
not putting in the time before you get into the industry to break into the industry,
Mhm.
you're behind. You're
Yeah.
absolutely behind. There's free labs, there's free hack the box, try hack me, you name it. There are free ways to learn the industry. Security Blue Team is another one. Please check them
Mhm.
out. I used to be on the advisory board. If you're trying to be an analyst or an engineer in the blue team side, please go check out Security Blue Team. They're BTL
Yes.
level one. I was on the advisory board before it potentially has changed. I don't know. It's been years since I dealt with it, but
Hmm.
fantastic certifications. But
Hmm.
if you don't put forth the effort on your own time prior to breaking into a career field that you want,
Yeah.
once you're in, set your terms, do what you want to do. I don't care how you operate after that. But it
Hmm.
takes you you can't learn something while doing a career field that has nothing to do with the career you want. So how
You
are you
know,
going to get the job?
and I'll even go, I work in the field, okay? But you know what? I still have my home labs. I, if, I still, I mean, I VirtualBox, I love the fact that Broadcom made VM Workstation Pro a free thing now. You know, once, OpenCTI, cyber threat intelligence. Um, you know, I I'm still playing with tools. I'm still building things out. You know, and the thing of it is once I learn the tool, I want to package it. I've got VMs galore. I've got a VM for just about everything. I've got OSINT VMs. I've got my ethical hacking platforms. Yes, I don't just use uh, Kali Linux. Okay, Mandiant has a wonderful Windows-based hacking platform out there called Commando VM.
Did they are
You
they
know,
still updating that? I want to pump the right. Are they still updating it? Because they had FireEye and they had Commando, and last I checked, it had been a while since there were any updates to it. Are they updating those two?
Commando, I don't know so much. I've tried building it on a Windows 11 platform. It's still running on Windows. You can still run it on Windows 10 without any issue. Windows 11, I got to get under the hood and play with it a little bit more in order for it to
Because
function the
I
right
wish they
way.
would have maintained those because I did that. I legitimately used Commando and I want to say it was
Hmm.
Fire. Could have been called something else. Whatever their incident
Uh,
response, incident handling toolkit was.
I was going to say Flare VM
Flare.
is the
Flare.
other.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Matt Kiley over at Huntress. He's still, he teaches. He's got practical malware analysis and triage on TCM Security Academy. He still keeps that. He's still, he, you can
The
you
other
can still
one,
learn
all
through
right.
that.
So for everybody out there, I'll find it. There is a Remnux,
Yes.
REMNUX, reverse
Hmm.
engineering malware Linux distro from SANS. Fantastic. Absolutely
Yes.
fantastic. There is very
And
few pieces of malware that you need Windows for to,
mhm.
look at. But
uh,
if you can get away from Windows, Remnux is fantastic.
Remnux, if you and actually Remnux, you run that in tandem with Mandiant's Flare VM.
Yes. Flare again, Flare's the IR like isn't one where Flare is the reverse engineering malware version of Remnux of the
Yes,
Linux version.
yes, yes. And running those two with each other. I don't want to give away too much. But a good malware analysis lab will run Remnux in in tandem with
Yes.
Flare VM.
Well, yeah, because anybody who's dealt with malware knows that some of it just doesn't read Linux, so it will never activate. So you need Windows. You absolutely
Mhm.
need it. You need to be able to understand how to stand up your own DNS server within those, because you need
Exactly.
DNS in order for some malware to activate as well. But with that being said, we are well over the top of the hour. It is 8:09.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Mark, it's been an amazing conversation. Before I go, please give any final words of wisdom to anybody trying to break into the industry.
Don't stop learning. Don't give up. Okay. You got to knock on every door, and eventually one of them is going to open for you. Keep learning. There are free ways to learn, and when you've exhausted all of the free ways, start inventing your own ways to learn. It does it. Money does not have to stop you from learning. Keep learning. education, stay curious. I don't, I'm looking at the hackers poster behind you, hack the planet, but that is what truly made the hacker culture what it was. Curiosity.
Yep.
Learn everything you can, you know. I'm sure you can still go to those brick and mortar buildings called the library, and they have these non-interactive materials in there called books. Read them. If you do not like your book in book form, I'll be honest. There are some books I have in book form. My wife introduced me to this wonderful thing called a Kindle, this e-reader thing, and I love it. It took, I used to look at books like this, and it's like, oh, that's going to take me 6 years to read. Put a Kindle in my hands. I read, when I started reading on a Kindle, I read 27 books in a year because I quit. I didn't have that intimidating, thick spine look staring at me, and I wasn't looking at, okay, well, how far am I? No, I just got in there and read. Okay, you know, you know, make technology work for you. I mean, if books in book form is too intimidating, get an e-reader, because then it takes all the intimidation out of it, out of reading. You just start reading, and before you know it, you're at the end of the book.
Definitely.
So folks, stay curious, keep learning, don't ever stop. I had a great English teacher in high school, um, and the guy, the man kind of gave me my mantra: don't be satisfied with the status quo, always strive to get smarter, to learn more, and don't make somebody else responsible for your education. If there's something out there that you want to learn, you we have got such a wonderful tool called the internet, and this machine called Google. It will give you information. It will give you information. And here, I'm going to go Mr. Miyagi on you here. Okay, the answer is only important if you ask the right question. If one Google search doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for, try it again. Ask the question in a different way,
Yeah.
and keep asking. You know, eventually you'll strike gold. So guys, I know we're going over. I don't want to take up any more of your time or anybody else's time. This is a great, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate you letting me come on here and spew, and
Hey, look, this is
give
my
my
show. I do things how I do things, and I don't care. For those
amen, brother.
watching, look, Mark is spot on. Like, read books. And I'll be honest. I know this is about cybersecurity and education, but if you want to learn how to communicate, if you want to advance your ability in any industry, in anything you're doing, it doesn't always have to be a nonfiction book. You can read fiction and fantasy and everything else, and just learn how things happen. Me personally, I love to read. I've read every Harry Potter book several times. I've read Lord of the Rings. I love fantasy. I absolutely love fantasy. I've read them on Nook and I buy paperback. I've done it both. So actually, I prefer hardback, but some of them are only come in paperback. So I've started reading more independent authors. But reading is fundamental. If you do not know how to read, I'm sorry, you're going to fall behind. White papers and everything else that we do in this industry comes down to reading. I'm sorry, a CVE doesn't come in video format. It does not. It just does not exist. There is not a video format for somebody publishing a CVE.
Hmm.
Sorry, doesn't exist. You have to learn and want to read. That's the only way. So be willing to take that on, be willing to understand that you can grow within this industry as long as you have the ability and the willingness to learn. No matter where it comes from, no matter the age, race, sex, gender, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are, learn from everybody and be willing to learn from everybody because everybody has something to bring. Now, with that being said, go out there, get your education, keep growing in this industry, keep getting better, and keep being amazing warriors because I know every single one of you wants to do great things. Now, I love you all. Take care, and we'll see you next week with another amazing episode. Security Happy Hour.